Christian school. First responders, you can see there racing to the scene, the school just a short time ago. Police say the shooter is down, and we've just confirmed through our Aaron Katursky that the shooter is dead. Police are calling it a very active scene right now. The school teaches students from kindergarten through 12th grade. The police chief is walking up to the podium right now to brief the media. So let's go ahead and listen to what he has to say.
Coming and talk about how important the media is to our community. But the truth is, today is a sad, sad day, not only for Madison, but for our entire country, where yet another police chief is doing a press conference to speak about violence in our community, specifically in one of the places that's most sacred to me as someone who loves education and to someone who has children that are in schools. So I'm gonna tell you what I know. I'll answer any questions that I can. There'll be a secondary briefing that our PIO will let you know about, okay? Today, around 10:57 a.m., our officers were responding to a call of an active shooter at the Abundant Life Christian School here in Madison. When officers arrived, they found multiple victims suffering from gunshot wounds. We train on this almost quarterly. The last time we trained on this as commanders was approximately 2 weeks ago. The protocols are simple. Stop the killing, stop the dying, find out who's doing this. And the officers did that, and they did that adamantly. We had officers from around the county and around the state that came in support of this particular incident. Officers located a juvenile who they believe was responsible for this deceased in the building. Additionally, the officers began administering life-saving efforts to anyone who was wounded and making sure that those persons were transported. What we know is that a total of about 7 persons were transported from this scene to area hospitals for treatment. We know that at least 3 people have lost their lives, including a juvenile person. I don't have any other information about those persons who have lost their lives, and I'm not going to release that until we have, of course, spoken with family members and ensuring that they are fully aware of this tragic, tragic scene that occurred today. I want to thank all of the law enforcement partners and community members that came out to help, our friends at the ATF. I've gotten calls from my friends at the FBI, the State Patrol, the Sheriff's Office, Monona Police Department, our fire department. It goes on and on and on. Because this is something that we all prepare for, but we hope we never have to do. As you can see, we have a unification center that was immediately set up where parents and guardians and loved ones and grandparents wanted to get information about their loved ones, and we wanted to make sure that they were unified immediately. So we were doing more than one thing at one time. We're still going through methodically clearing that school, clearing every vehicle, and making certain that there's no other threats to this community, which we believe there are none. We immediately alerted our mayor's office, and I've been on the phone with her and her office constantly. We also alerted Madison schools. We put the schools on lockdown, but there's no threats to MMSD schools at this time. But we wanted to make sure that we did our due diligence in this particular case. Again, we're still going through collecting evidence, collecting information, making sure that our community is safe from what is a sad day for our community and for our country. And we have to do a little bit better. I don't have all the answers that you want right now, but I will tell you this. We have some of the best officers in the entire country. Our detectives are amazing. We're going to go and work hard and go through this scene so that we can piece together what exactly happened. Again, there'll be another briefing in about 2 hours, and if I have additional information, I will certainly let you know what that information is.
All right, you're listening to this breaking news right now out of Madison, Wisconsin. That is Police Chief Sean Barnes getting emotional, talking about this school shooting at Abundant Life Christian School. He confirmed for the reporters there 2 people confirmed dead, plus the shooter, who was a juvenile. And at this time, they believe there is no other threat to the community. But he was talking about how his officers trained for this sort of scenario on a regular basis, and were training for this exact thing just 2 weeks ago. And as you heard, they're getting emotional talking about this. Let's bring in our senior investigative correspondent, Aaron Katursky. I was listening to you actually talking to your sources earlier. What are they telling you about what played out at this school?
Well, sad state of affairs when the police have to routinely train for just this very scenario, but that's the situation we're in. And Madison police confirmed when it was a juvenile who they believe to be the shooter found dead inside the building. The chief didn't say it, but that implies the shooter may have taken his own life after opening fire. 7 people transported to the hospital, 2 others dead. He didn't give a lot of information about the severity of the injuries or who the deceased were, but he did say that the shooter's a juvenile. It raises immediate questions about how the shooter was able to get a gun inside the building, whether the juvenile actually goes to that school, whether victims were specifically targeted. The chief didn't have any of those answers as of yet, but he said there is no additional threat. The police believe they have this contained, so the priority now, in addition to treating the injured at area hospitals, is to get kids from inside the building reunited with their parents.
Aaron, thank you. And as we've seen from some of the images, the video coming in here, they set up this area around the school. They locked down some of the other schools in the area. And we've heard from local reporters on the ground that they've been trying to reunite parents with their children. Obviously, a very frightening time for everyone in that community. Let's bring in our Chief Justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas, who's been following developments. Pierre, we know that the ATF was on scene. We were also hearing that the FBI, other agencies were monitoring this. What more are you learning?
Well, I was told exactly that. FBI, ATF, all these different agencies trying to get additional information. Obviously, this rose to the level of their concern because they did get the reports of multiple injuries. They were waiting on the specifics about the fatalities. And one source I spoke to spoke about the notion that there are just so many of these mass shootings all the time. Last year, there were 656 mass shootings. That's where 4 or more people are shot or killed or wounded. This year to date, 486. This is now a routine part of American life. And law enforcement officials, although they're seeing progress, remain worried that this is now routine, young people being put in these situations.
Sadly, Pierre, and as we heard the chief, they're talking about the training for this exact scenario just 2 weeks ago, and their goal being when they arrive, stop the killing, stop the dying, find out who did this. And he said in this case, officers did exactly that. Let's bring in our ABC News contributor and former FBI agent, Brad Garrett. Brad, we've obviously followed a lot of these cases. Where does the investigation go from here? It's both, there's some encouraging news that the shooter is down and the shooter is no longer alive. However, when it comes to the investigation, now the officers, the investigators have to put this all together on their own about how this happened.
So the real key, Whit, is what did they know about this kid? Where we typically go quickly in these type of shootings. In other words, Aaron mentioned, where did the weapon come from? That's obviously key. Kids that are typically juveniles who aren't old enough to buy weapons, get them from home. If they don't get them from home, they can't have somebody else buy them. But the point being, you've got to figure out if you could have stopped this. So that's really a primary focus.
And we've seen cases now with parents being charged with their children carrying out shootings. Let's go ahead and listen back to Chief Barnes. He was taking questions from reporters. Let's listen in for a moment.
It's a school, it's a safe space that we're updating victims. And so there's a lot of work that has to be done, and we're committed to doing that work. We just ask for your patience. I think the most important part is the reunification, again, that we spoke about, making sure that those persons who are, whether they staff, whether they're staff, students, because we need to make sure that we can notify people. I think that's the most important thing before we go any further.
But police they never fired their weapons.
That is correct.
Correct?
I don't know if it's a male or a female, but the police department did not fire their weapons. Thank you.
Scott, are there 3 fatalities you mentioned, including the suspected shooter?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
3 total.
That's correct.
Are the 7 that was transported, are the 3 fatalities within that 7 or addition to that?
Yes, within that 7, yes. Thank you.
Was the shooter a student at the school?
We believe the shooter was a student at the school, yes.
What can you tell us about the status of the other transports?
We know that they range from minor injuries to life-threatening. I know that's a huge spectrum, but that's what we know now. And so we need everyone, again, to send your thoughts and your prayers out to them. One thing I do know is that we have some of the best medical care in the country here in Madison. And so we hope that everyone will recover, but at this time, we don't know.
So we did just get an update from our command post. 5 deceased at this time, 5 injured.
So a total of 10.
So a total of 10.
Again, this is a ever evolving situation. Just hearing that, what does that make you think? How does that make you feel? That we have to do a better job in our community on a Monday, right? So close to Christmas that we're updating victims. And so there's a lot of work that has to be done, and we're committed to doing that work. We just ask for your patience. I think the most important part is the reunification, again, that we spoke about, making sure that those persons who were in the schools, whether they're staff, students, or what have you, are reunified, and we have done that. Again, I want to say thank you to all our partners. Again, our friends are here from the ATF. They're going to help us. I heard the question about the gun. I don't know yet, which is why we have a great partnership with the ATF that will help us determine the origin of this gun and where it happened. So I'm going to leave it at that, and we will have another press conference. Stephanie has the location.
We're doing 2:30 at Fire Station 14 in their community room. 2:30, Fire Station 14.
Steph, can you confirm the 5 who are dead? Does that include the shooter?
That does include the shooter.
Are the
Yes,
victims
it would.
students, teachers, a mix?
Yeah, again, we're not going to talk about that until we notify all the families that may be involved. Again, this is an ever evolving situation, and we're trying to figure it out. What did you say, man?
Has the school been cleared? Are all the students out of the school?
The school has been through a secondary clearing. We're doing another one now with the help of bomb dogs, just in case. We want to clear vehicles and things of that nature. So we're going to take our time, and we're going to go through, and we're going to do everything that we can. So thank you very much, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Fire Station 14.
Once again, that is Chief Barnes talking about this school shooting at Abundant Life Christian School in Madison, Wisconsin. He called it an ever-evolving situation, and we're actually learning the numbers were literally changing as he was speaking. So now officers are saying 4 people killed plus the shooter, so 5 total. We know the shooter was a juvenile. 5 other people injured and transported to local hospitals. Aaron, I know you've been talking to some of your sources as well. What else are we learning about how this played out?
Well, it's important. The chief confirmed, Chief Barnes did, with that the police officers who responded to the scene did not fire a shot. So that leads us to believe the shooter took his or her own life. And the chief would not confirm whether it was a male or female juvenile, but that juvenile was able to get a gun inside the building, open fire. It appears that there are 5 people that suffered gunshot wounds that have been transported to area hospitals. And you heard the chief say they are now going on a tertiary screening for the 3rd time, going through the school and vehicles on the parking lot with bomb dogs, just to make sure there's no additional threat. But they seem to know right away that they had this contained as soon as the officers encountered the dead juvenile on the ground inside the building. They felt comfortable then bringing EMTs with responding officers inside to give people medical attention right away if they needed it.
And at this point, again, they felt confident to be able to tell people in the community there does not appear to be any other threat in the area.
There doesn't appear so. They did put Madison public schools on lockdown out of an abundance of caution. The chief says there does not appear to be any additional threat, so those lockdowns will undoubtedly be lifted. Priority now is to get kids reunited with parents who have got to be worried sick.
Absolutely, a terrifying day for those families. Aaron Katursky and our entire team, thank you. Our coverage does continue on ABC News Live and abcnews.com. Then we'll have a full wrap-up tonight on World News Tonight with David Muir. For now, I'm Wade.